Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. The next hour is all about the entrepreneur, why they start businesses, how they make their businesses grow, how they overcome failures and achieve success. Your host, Bob Gibbons, founder of Riata Commercial Realty, a commercial real estate advisory and tenant advocacy firm. Bob will ask probing questions to find impactful solutions that will help take your business to the next level. And now, here's Bob Gibbons.
You know, when I was a kid, I had all kinds of weird jobs. I worked in a commercial laundry, doing hospital and hotel laundry. I was a coach's assistant in high school, but the job that I had that I never, ever wanted to do again was being a busboy in a restaurant. I was at a IHOP in suburban Washington, D.C., and I thought, who in the world in their right mind would want to do this for a living, working in a restaurant? And it was, I had to work every weekend. I had to work every holiday. Just thought, this is not a fun thing for me. Both my kids were servers in college, and they liked it. But our guest today, Brent Tipps, he's got a little different background. He worked at a Baskin-Robbins. He waited tables. He was a cook at Steak and Ale, and yet he stayed in the restaurant business, saved up enough money to buy a CC's franchise, eventually did a lot of other things that we'll get to in the show. So, Brent, glad you're here today. Welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here.
So in that intro, and by the way, Brent owns Boomer Jacks and Bedford Ice House, and you can find them online at boomerjacks.com and bedfordicehouse.com. So, Brent, why the heck did you want to stay in the restaurant business?
I got into the restaurant business early and really enjoyed it. I loved working with people and loved serving them.
Yeah.
And I found out that it was just, it made me happy. I like serving people, and that's what I've always enjoyed doing. So I stuck with it.
Interesting. So you literally started in high school in these other jobs, like Baskin-Robbins, all that kind of thing?
Yes. And then when I relocated to Dallas, my dad fired me. And so...
Wait a minute, what were you doing for your dad?
I was doing commercial laundries. Like what you were saying.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No.
That was no peachy gig, was it?
No, that was the first time he fired me.
Oh, first time.
That was the first time. So I got a part-time job doing something else, went back to work for him, got fired again. And he said, hey, I saw a now hiring sign at Steak and Ale. You should go. And I said, okay. So I walked down to Steak and Ale and got a job.
What did he fire you from the second time?
I was doing receivables for him. I was collecting money.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's funny. You get fired by your dad twice.
I know.
You know, I actually worked for a company where the CEO met his wife at the company, and they got married, and he later had to fire her, which is a little bit weird, but it worked out, and she knew she needed to go. But, I've
done that too.
You've done that too?
I've done that as well.
You fired your wife?
I had to.
Your current wife?
Correct. Correct. She still works with us. She still does a lot of the things, but she's just not in the office on a day-to-day basis.
That's funny. Why did you have to fire your wife?
Oh, I didn't have to fire. It just I want to play. So she can run with me all day long now and be my assistant.
And
hang
I
out.
got you.
So, yeah.
That's funny.
She's my best friend, and so it works better.
My wife works with me full time still. She hasn't always. She only for the last 3 years, but it works well. Although, poor thing, I get set in my ways, and the worst thing for her is that she has to listen to my, whining whenever it doesn't get done exactly the way I'm used to doing it, which is not a good thing.
No, I get it, and it's 24/7. She gets to listen about business 24 hours a day, but she doesn't mind, so that's a good thing.
So you went to high school. You were doing some of these jobs. Your dad fires you. When you get out of high school, do you go to college?
No, well, I took some business courses in college, and taking the basics just reminded me of high school. It was just like high school again. So I tried to test out of a few classes, and I had a couple of professors that said, if you don't show up every single day, I'll fail you.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'd taken their finals within the first 2 or 3 weeks of the school. I had aced them, had 100% on accounting finals and business finals, and yet they still said, you'll be here every single day. And I couldn't do it.
Yeah, why do it?
Correct.
That I mean, so really, you didn't find the college experience to be useful. So
I loved the business classes, like absolutely loved them. And um, regretfully, no, I don't have a degree. It's the one thing I don't have. I can't buy it, and I'll never have it.
how far did you get?
Probably 6 classes. So I'm a little ways off.
No reason to beat around the bush. Just
No.
cut that puppy off as quickly as you can.
Yeah, just fell fast.
At least
right?
you didn't have to go into debt for it, I imagine.
Correct.
That's the good thing. Wow, that's hilarious.
Yeah, no, there's no college debt. None.
Well, yeah, 6 classes.
Yeah.
Was that like community college or?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep.
Actually, I like that because I tell people a lot of times whenever they tell me what they want to do when they grow up, I want to be a veterinary tech, or I want to be a veterinarian, or I want to be this or that dentist. It's like, really, have you ever worked in one of those offices? You might want to go get a job or a part-time job or ask somebody to shadow them just to make sure. And we actually have a niece who did that in a vet's office, and she realized while she loves animals, she doesn't like being around them when they're in distress and pain. And so she just like bailed on that totally. Thank God before she went into debt and realized,
Yeah.
hey, I don't like this.
No, it's good. It's really good advice.
So you did that with college. You go to community college, you don't spend a lot of money, and hey, this is not for me, or I don't need it. Move on.
Yeah, it worked out okay.
I love that.
I wouldn't recommend it for most people, but it worked. It worked.
Well, so you decide you don't need college. Your dad fires you twice. What are you doing at this point?
Go to steak now, wait tables, become the head waiter, and enjoyed that. And then moved into cooking at night. And so I started, I was the guy behind the line cooking dinner. And then I took over administrative responsibilities in the morning. And so I was working 80 to 90 hours a week.
Oh my goodness. At like 19 years old or something?
Yeah, probably 20.
Goodness.
Yeah, they had an attic upstairs and I slept in it. Take naps between breaks so I could keep going. And they would yell up there and, holler at me to wake up and get down and get up there. And so I would, just do my work. I would go to work and I worked 6 or 7 days.
Were you the manager?
No. So I did administrative work in the morning, waited tables during the day, and cooked at night. So I basically opened and closed the restaurant. I was there through both management changes. So
you're just learning everything just by doing it.
correct.
That's the best way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah. It was awesome.
Do you have people doing that with you now?
No. We wouldn't let anybody work that many hours.
Well, I didn't mean that, but I mean where people just kind of learn from doing it, and then you see who's doing good and
Correct.
promote them.
We try very, very hard to promote from within.
Interesting.
We're growing a little more quickly now, so it's more difficult, but we're still doing the best we can to fill our pipeline up with people that we can just continue to bring up, whether it's in the office. We just brought another girl into the office who's waited tables with us for 4 years. She graduated from UNT with an HR degree, and so we moved her into the office, and she loves it. And we moved another girl in last year, and so what we're finding out is it's a really sought-after position to make it to the office. I don't know why, but it is.
All that extra money they're making.
Regular hours, I think, is what it is.
Oh.
It's working the 9 to 5, not getting home at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But it's we love promoting from within.
Interesting. So you're so at Steak and Ale, you're doing that. You're learning everything. How long do you do that with Steak and Ale?
Probably close to 3 years.
Wow. And how do you break out of that?
Ended up leaving there and got involved with a company with CC's Pizza. So I joined CC's when I believe there were 6 stores. And then I stayed with them as a manager and moving around the franchise department. Not the franchise department, but the franchisees. And I would build stores up, and then I would move on to another franchisee and help him build his stores up. And got married, and the founder of CC's, Joe Croce, approached me one day and asked me if I wanted to take a bankrupt store because I was pretty good at building sales. And I said, yeah. And so he negotiated the deal and co-signed the note for me.
What?
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah. He did it for a lot of people back in the beginnings, how he was growing. He grew from within. He took us young guys, brought us up, and then when he deemed that you were mature enough to handle it, he would co-sign a note and help you get a store. So he was growing his franchise through proven people.
But I mean, on a franchise that had already gone bankrupt, that didn't make it, What was it about that franchise that made him, or that location, that made him think that it could survive and that you were the right guy to make that work?
Because the store had opened up at a good volume, and they'd managed it down. They were basically absentee owners.
Oh, now that was if I remember correctly, because I spent a lot of time at CC's. I guess the original CC's was in Plano at Spring
Correct.
Creek and Custer.
Correct.
And I live very close to there, and so my kids wanted to go there all the time, and we went there a lot. But if I remember correctly, that's where they were always testing out new stuff, and they didn't accept any kind of credit cards or anything originally. It was all cash only, right?
Correct.
So if you're having an absentee owner that's not around watching that cash come in, that's pretty dangerous.
Pretty dangerous, yes.
Wow. I mean, you got to have. I have a friend that I used to work with who had a franchise for CC's down in San Antonio. And the only I think he had two, if I might remember correctly. And the only reason it worked for him is that his brother was the manager, and he trusted his brother implicitly because, it's a cash business. But as soon as his brother decided to go do something else, he sold him because he knew he was going to be an absentee owner, and that just wasn't going to work.
And it doesn't work.
Wow. So you obviously weren't an absentee owner once you got that store.
Yeah, after we got up there, it was in Hot Springs, Arkansas, so I had to relocate. Walked in the door, there was no food on the buffet, and so I walked up to the counter and just said, "Hey, I'd like to get a buffet," and they said, "It'll be a few minutes till we can get some food out for you." And I said, "Well, just curious because I live in Dallas, and when you go into CC's, there's always food out." And they said, "Oh, no, not here. We wait until people show up, and then we cook it."
Oh, no.
And I thought, this is going to be easy.
It's going to be easy to be a hero here, huh?
Yeah, because on the way up there thinking, what have I done? How am I going to do this? I wonder how bad a shape it's in. And I walk in, it's like the worst thing ever, and I'm thinking, easy. So
Wow.
it was it worked out really well.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we took the store. It was probably doing $300,000 in annual revenue, and when I sold it, it was doing $1.3 million in revenue. So
Beautiful.
I was able to take that money, relocate back to Dallas, and buy the store in Coppell.
And how long a period of time was that you took it from 300 to $1.3 million?
2 years, and then it took a year to sell it.
That fast?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
If you do things right, I mean, CC's had a proven concept.
Yeah.
And back then it was just, it was really people enjoyed it. And so it wasn't that hard. It really wasn't. We got out in the community, churches, teachers, preachers,
Kids groups.
coaches, just pressing palms 7 days a week, talking
Makes
to people.
sense. All right, we're going to have to take a quick break.
All right.
We will be right back after these messages. We are back, and we are talking to Brent Tipps. Brent is the owner of Boomer Jacks and Bedford Ice House. You can find them at boomerjacks.com and bedfordicehouse.com. We were just talking about your experience as a CC's CC's Pizza franchisee. And so you worked with them for how many years before you became a franchisee?
Probably 5.
Okay. So you proved yourself over 5 years, got noticed by the owner. He saw that you were really a go-getter, and so you were able to buy into a distressed store and turn that around and sell it. So when you sold that after only 2 years, did you sell it because you just didn't want to be part of CC's anymore, or you just saw an opportunity to make the profit and go do something else that you wanted to do?
Was ready to move back to Dallas, and the only way to open more stores in Arkansas would have been able to travel and drive throughout rural Arkansas, and just wasn't ready to do that. Would rather come back to Dallas and with seed money to buy a store and then hopefully more stores and go from there.
So having that one store sale, one CC sale, then set you up in DFW with what? With what?
One store.
Of what?
A CC's.
Oh, you bought another CC's
Bought a
here.
CC's, sold that.
Okay.
Sold that.
I'm a slow study.
Not,
I'm sorry.
well, you could sell a store in Dallas for probably twice because not everyone wanted to live in Arkansas.
Yeah.
So, sold that, came back here, bought the store in Coppell, and then just kind of did it again. Took that store, built it up.
Was it also a distressed store?
No, it wasn't distressed, but it just had more. It had more bandwidth available for me to build the store up. So that store was probably doing $800,000 a year, and I got it up to about $1.3 million again.
Is that kind of the cap out of a CC store?
No, not back then. They had a couple of stores that were doing $2 million. Not many, but it being $1.3 million was probably in the top 10% of the company.
And what made the big difference in somebody that was doing $1.3 million versus $2 million?
There were only a couple of those stores, and they were larger format, and they had larger game rooms. And so
Okay.
they attracted a lot more school buses and things
Ah.
like that. And they also did a lot of catering, lots of cafeterias, just things outside the four walls.
Gotcha. So so you always have to have more square footage to get more sales.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Just in those instances, it worked in those couple of stores that they had that did that.
Okay.
Again, you're talking about 2 stores out of 500 maybe that did that volume.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So low millions was a lot more normal.
Yeah, like I said, you're still probably in the top 10% at that point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think the average volume was about 850
Okay.
for system-wide average
Okay.
at that time.
So really getting 2 in a row to $1.3 million is a pretty awesome track record.
Very blessed, yes.
That's wonderful. So how long did that take? Another couple of years?
Correct.
And what did you do then?
Wanted to open another store, did not have the financial capabilities to do it. My family didn't have the money. I had no rich friends, so couldn't keep up with growing at CC's. It just couldn't do it. So a friend of mine had a Wingstop franchise, and they were just kind of taking off in the very beginning. And so I tried to get involved with them, and they wouldn't return my phone calls. They were growing really big, really fast.
Yeah, but wait a minute. They're trying to grow by franchise.
Correct.
And you're a prospective franchisee, and they won't return your calls.
Correct. And then when I did get a phone call back, the guy basically told me he was lucky. I was lucky he even called back. And I said, well, listen, I'm trying to buy like a 5 to 10 store deal. I was going to sell the CCs, take the money and run with it and do those, because you could open at that time, you could probably do 2 or 3 Wingstops for the price you could do 1. So I thought I could build up enough cash flow to bankroll it. And he just said, you know what, we can interview you probably in 4 to 6 weeks. And I said, well, forget about it. I'll have one built by then. And so I went on and did my own.
So you just said, forget you guys. I'm going to take the same concept and do it myself?
Yeah, I thought so anyway.
Oh,
Yeah.
you thought so?
Correct.
So how'd that go?
Hard, very hard. Opened up a store in the White Rock Lake area. It's still there. We just finished remodeling it yesterday, as a matter of fact. It's been there 15 years. And so I opened the store, had the same hour, did the same things. I built that thing from scratch. I built that kitchen out of empty boxes in my dad's warehouse, and I tried time motion management, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to afford people, so I needed to have the least amount of people in the smallest space I could. So I tried to design a kitchen that one person could run and one person could run the front. And
So you're like the Ray Kroc of a wing restaurant.
I guess. Yeah, I knew I wouldn't have much money. And so we built it, and we opened up, and the sales were so miserable. It was just sad.
Oh, so what year was this that you opened that up?
2002.
Okay. So tech bust had just occurred. So the economy wasn't rocking exactly.
Exactly.
And so what did you call it from the beginning?
It was called Lone Star Wings.
Okay.
It was called Lone Star.
And how did it, you say you still have it. Is it still known as Lone Star Wings?
No. We changed the name to Boomer Jacks. They're just the smaller format stores. We have 5 of them. And they seat anywhere from 50 to 80 people probably. And the new stores probably seat anywhere from 250 to 700.
Wow.
So it kind of grew up.
No kidding. But I'm sorry, so they're all called Boomer Jacks?
Correct.
And so why did you change the name to Boomer Jacks?
Got misled by a gentleman who wanted to supposedly open 40 stores in Oklahoma. And I got all excited, and he's going to go out and raise money, and he brought me all these papers, and well-dressed guy, and knew everybody. And just on a hunch, I went to an attorney and had him research him. And they took it to their legal department, their securities department, and they basically said, you're going to go to jail. He is soliciting private, what they call it, the PPM.
Private placement memorandums.
Yes. So he was out going to hustle a bunch of stuff that the SEC wouldn't allow him to do. He had been busted a couple other times doing it.
Oh, my goodness.
But in this whole process, we were going to go to Oklahoma. And then we got a letter in the mail from Lone Star Steakhouse and Saloon out of Kansas City and said, hey, you can do all the Lone Star stuff you want to in Texas, but you step foot outside of there and use that name, and we will shut you down. So we had to come up with a new name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then it ended up, the guy was a crook anyway.
So he flaked out on you, and you've never left Texas so far.
Correct. Correct. And went into like $40,000 of debt buying new signage for all the stores. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the name Boomer Jacks?
We've got a really, really good design firm, a little boutique firm. And we ran names for a long time, probably looked at over 500 names. And most of them were just quick to say no and no and no. Narrowed it down to a few, sent it out to as many people as I knew on email, and asked what their thoughts were on them. And I would get all these random results, asking odd questions. And so it was clear none of these names were going to work. And then when we stuck Boomer Jacks out there, we got back a response of, sounds fun, sounds great, do you sell T-shirts, how do we get one, where do we go? And there were more enthusiastic comments.
Okay.
So we stuck with it.
So it doesn't really mean anything? It's
No.
not named after an individual? It's just randomly made
correct.
up?
Correct. Just means nothing. It was a cool name, and it meant nothing. And if you Googled it, you couldn't find anything bad on it. I mean, it fit all the criteria I wanted,
Yeah.
and you could remember it. And so we just stuck with it.
Well, I mean, Boomer Jacks does sound fun. I think that's a great description. It sounds fun. It's kind of like, what is that? It sounds like there's a story behind it.
Correct.
So did you make up a story to go behind it?
No, we've tried a number of times. we offered $500 from within for any staff member that could find a really good story and make something up. And we got the wildest, craziest things written, but none of them were good. So we're still a name without a story.
Is that 500 still available?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Maybe I'll take a crack at it.
Yeah, knock it out.
All right, listeners, $500 if you can come up with an interesting backstory for Boomer Jack's name.
Correct.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you always think that there's meaning behind names, but I mean, how many names are out there? Exxon, of all things. I mean, it's one of the highest valued companies in the world, but what does Exxon mean? Absolutely nothing. It's a totally made up name.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many like that.
Yes.
So why not a restaurant?
Correct.
Interesting.
We get a lot of guests asking the staff what the backstory is, or does it have something to do with Oklahoma or whatever. And
because Boomer, Boomer Sooner.
Yeah,
okay.
correct. Yeah. But no, we just keep rolling without it.
I worked for a company one time that was called Edward C. Francis and Associates. And anytime anybody would call and ask for Mr. Francis, we knew that they were just salesmen or somebody that didn't know Jack, because the three names were the three owners' middle names just put together. Absolutely, totally made up. It was pretty funny.
That is funny. I like it.
Okay, so you've sold your CCs. You've created this one over in East Dallas, and you said it was what? Casa Linda Plaza, was it?
Correct.
Okay, and that one's still there.
Correct.
So how long does it take for that one to start making sales, and what did you do to get those sales?
Well, the first week we were open, the founder of Wingstop came by to eat, and I recognized him because I've been stalking him, right? Like I've been trying to figure out how to do a Wingstop, and so he comes in and he sits down, he orders a Coors Light, he gets an order of French fries, and he sat down to eat, and I didn't play that I knew him. I went out and talked to him. He's the only guest there, so I had a lot of time to talk, and so I was talking to him, asked him what he thought about the place, and I was ribbing him on a little bit, like, hey, and this coldest beer you ever had, and best fries you ever had, right? And, and he said, yeah, that's pretty good, and I said, well, better than Wingstops, right? And he's just sitting there, and so he kind of jabs back and says, yeah, well, this place looks a lot like Wingstop, kind of same design. And I said, no.
He's catching on.
Yeah, I said, no, are you kidding me? I said, they got old rusted airplane parts hanging around, and this place is nice. And then I just pat him on the shoulder, and I said, Antonio, I know who you are. I respect you a lot. And he said, man, that was rough. And he said, I wish you well in what you're doing. And I said, have you got any advice for me? And he said, don't grow too fast. He said, it's probably going to take you 5 or 6 years, maybe 7 to figure it out. And he said, good luck with what you're doing.
So he was just there checking out the new competition.
Correct. Yeah, nice guy. Yeah.
So did you ever tell him that you wanted a Wingstop?
I did. I told him the story.
Right there at that time?
Yeah. I said, you lost me as a franchisee because your guy was so arrogant. And he just said, well, we were growing fast at that time. And it's all good.
That's funny.
Yeah, without him, I wouldn't be here.
Have you stayed in touch with him at all?
No, I don't know him personally. No.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I love that you you just went up and started messing with him.
I didn't. There was nothing else to do. There's no one else in the place.
All right. Okay. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty. If your office lease is going to be expiring in the next year or two, the one thing I would tell you definitely do not want to do is exercise a renewal option. Now, that may sound a little nuts when you negotiate for that renewal option. Why wouldn't you actually want to use it? Well, the reason is because while you want to have one as a reservation for your space so the landlord can't lease the space out from under you, that option may not actually work the way you want it to now. It may have made sense 5 years ago, but it doesn't today. The only thing that changes when you exercise a renewal option are the expiration date and the rent. But you may want to do other things like have another option to renew, have an option to terminate or expand. You may want to be able to expand now or have a new base year for your operating expenses. There's all kinds of things that need to be considered. So we recommend that you renegotiate, not renew. For more information, contact me, Bob Gibbons, at texastenantrep.com. That's texastenantrep.com.
All right, so we are back, and so you've just finished talking to this guy, Wingstop, and he said grow slow. Did you take that advice?
Yeah, my plan was to wait 2 to 3 years, have everything figured out, and then roll forward to the franchise model. And went to a hockey game. Somebody had given us tickets, and went up to the level where a friend of mine was sitting, and he was the co-founder of CC's. And so I was very quiet about what I was doing. You know, I wasn't telling anybody. And went up and said hi to him. And he said, "Hey, I hear you're doing something new." And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he said, I know what you're up to. And he said, "I want to get involved like I did with CC's." So next thing I know, we built 3 stores in 18 months.
Oh, my.
Yeah, that was a bad thing.
Why was that bad?
Because I had no idea what we were doing. We weren't making any money. It was just easy to borrow at that time. So I learned how to leverage and over leverage.
So how long was this after you started the first store that you built the next?
The next store opened 6 months after the first one.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
You're right. That's way too soon.
Yeah. I didn't even know we weren't making money. I mean,
Wait a minute. How do you not know you're not making money?
we made enough to pay the bills, but there were no employees. I mean, I was pulling probably 75 hours a week, 80 hours a week.
Okay.
We were only open from 4 to midnight, so I was covering almost every shift there was. There were no profits.
Certainly not.
No, I mean, I could pay the rent and pay the food bill, but there was nothing else.
So why is this guy wanting to buy more? Is he just a gambler?
Well, he's an investor, and he's gotten involved with different things over time and different products, and he still has his own company now. He's 70 years old, and he still works 5 days a week in the warehouse, and he's a great guy. He's my mentor.
So did he buy into the overall company or just into those next couple of stores?
Into the next, he and I are still partners. He has 50% of those 3 stores over there.
Okay. So I've heard that whenever a new store starts, not necessarily in yours, but in most restaurants, that every new store is a new entity with a different partnership structure, possibly. Is that accurate?
Can be, yes.
But not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
He and I have one company, an umbrella, excuse me, that has 3 stores under it.
Okay.
So we have one corporation with 3. We have a limited partnership, and I'm the general partner.
But he's not on additional stores because you just didn't need him at that point, or
no? He stayed involved in. I leveraged out and did a couple more on my own, and then he and I were involved in those 3. We made no money after 5 years. So when I asked him if he wanted in on the next one, he politely declined.
Okay, so that took care of itself.
That kind of took care of itself because he was having to co-sign the bank notes and put stocks up. So he still had no money in the company, really. He would pledge stocks, and the bank would loan us money, and we would build stores. So
Now, why would a bank want to loan money, and why would you want to open up another store if you're not making money?
I just wanted to grow. I don't know. All my friends had multiple CCs, and I just knew to make more, I needed to have more. And so we kind of shut it down for a while and just tried to figure it out. And it was a long process.
So what did you figure out? Well, I mean, at what point did you start making money, and what did you do to start making money?
Sat in the office, analyzed the books over and over, started working on the food cost and the labor cost portions, stepped out, hired a district manager, didn't want to, but he literally did nothing but control costs the entire way through. He more than paid for himself, and that advice came from my mentor. His name is Mike Cole, and Mike just said, "You need to step out in faith." And I called Joe with CC's, and he said the same thing. You need to hire the next person, and you're going to have to. So I did, and it worked. It worked out.
So the controller controlled cost.
Correct.
It lived up to his title.
Correct.
And
I'm just out burning and turning and building and working and not really watching anything, and I can work really, really hard and really fast. And that kept my ADD mind busy all the time. Like I was busy all the time, but it just wasn't producing net income.
so were your sales good, and you weren't just controlling costs?
No, the sales were not good. They were just okay. They were just mediocre costs. But we had 10 years of growth. Every year we never had a negative year.
Okay.
And this is our 15th year, and we'll still be positive this year.
So what was the inflection point? When did you actually start
About
turning a profit?
6 years ago.
And you had how many stores at that point?
Of the small ones, we still just had those 5 small ones. I had the big ones going as well at this point.
How many of those?
4.
So you have 9 stores now.
Correct.
And you're still not really you're just starting to turn a profit.
Yeah, the big stores are making money, making really, really good money. The little stores aren't.
Is it just because of volume?
Finally the volume kicked in. I mean, we tried direct mail, we tried everything we could do. I mean, the mailers that come in, social media started becoming larger. We were investing more money in that, and it just slowly taking care of the guests. That's all we did. That's all I can really look back to. Is that we always took care of the guests. We kept the place clean. We made sure we had the best food, everything made from scratch that we could possibly make. And over the years, it's built up a very, very loyal following. So now these tiny, tiny little stores, they do over $1 million each in revenue. And so I remember showing up at Mike's house one time at Christmas and handing him a check, and he about fell over. And he said, "We're going to make money?" I was like, "After 10 years, yeah, here's a return on your money."
What is this cash?
Yeah,
I don't
what
know
is
what
it?
to do with it?
And so now it's a lot of fun. I get to see him 3 or 4 times. Well, I see him more often, but 3 or 4 times a year, I get to show up with a big check for him, and they're substantial. It's fun.
Oh,
And
of course.
It's anyway. It's just good.
That's great. So, but I hate to say this, but it's unsatisfying to hear that we just waited and we took care of the guests. I think we all want to hear that there was some little nugget of what you did specifically that resulted in all of a sudden a lot more butts in seats. And
I just never gave up. We pushed all the buttons that we could. I went out, and the CC's model didn't work. I'd go out and talk to the preachers and the coaches and the teachers, and it didn't really do much because nobody wanted chicken wings, right? We slowly expanded the menu. I opened up at that point. I think Wingstop had chicken wings, French fries, baked beans, and potato salad. That was their whole menu.
oh my,
So I was going to one up them, and I had chicken tenders. That was my bright idea. I was going to have chicken tenders on the menu and kill them. And so then I added catfish. No reason why. We dropped that at some
something
point.
else fried, right?
Something else fried. Something I could put in the fryer and cook.
You got the fryer, might as well.
Yeah. I didn't need any more equipment. I couldn't afford it. I was in probably $200,000 in credit card debt. I mean, I'm paying my house payment on it. Every time that was the time when every day you'd go home, there'd be 3 new credit cards in the mailbox. Like everybody was approved for everything.
Yeah.
And I would call to activate it, and they would say, "Hey, 0% offer if you need any cash." And I would say, "Well, I don't really need it, but if you're going to offer it, I'll take it." And they'd wire me $10,000 or whatever, and they'd get me by another month. And
Oh my gosh.
so I kind of bankrolled it through credit cards, and I would just thought if I go down, I'm going down. It's going to be a total failure. It's not going to be a lack of trying. It won't be a lack of debt. It won't be from a lack of work. But I'm all in. Like I was all in at that point.
And this is the time we tell our viewers, our listeners, don't try this at home.
Correct.
Credit card debt. I mean,
Very bad. Very,
oh
very
my,
bad.
my.
Probably 25% average
Interest rate.
rate.
Oh my gosh.
So then I got an offer in the mail to factor the credit card receipts. Didn't even know what it was, but the guy offered me $100,000, so I took it. It was at 100% interest. So I borrowed $100,000 at 100% interest. So
Wait a minute, $100,000 at 100% interest.
yeah, it's a publicly traded corporation. It's what they do, and they take half of your credit card receipts every day. So if you have $1,000 in credit card receipts, they take $500.
No wonder you're not making any money.
Yeah.
How did you get out of that cycle?
Painfully, just continued to do nothing but just pay down debt as much as I could. Never took a dollar out of the stores. For 4 years, I didn't have income. Maybe 3 years didn't have income. I was living on the credit card. I would just take the money and live as low as I could. And that just whatever I had.
Is your wife working as well somewhere else, or is she working in the company?
No, she didn't. She stayed at home.
Kids?
I had one child, yes.
Oh, my goodness. This sounds like a train wreck about to happen.
Yeah.
But
Just stayed with it and stayed with it. A guy called one time from Fort Worth and wanted to buy a franchise. And I drove over there and dropped off a franchise agreement. And I think at that time you had to wait, I don't know if it was 5 days or something for they had to review it, or 10 days. And on that last day, I went to his office and he handed me a $25,000 check for his franchise agreement. And that floated me for another 2.5 months. So I always just had these bits and pieces that came in, whether it's a credit card or it's this or it's that. And then he's a great guy. Still partners with him on one store and in Fort Worth. That was our first large store.
so why were you thinking, well, you said, all right, you said that's your first large store. So the reason you opened it is because you had somebody that paid you a $25,000 franchise fee.
Exactly.
And then he paid for all the infrastructure and to build so he really funded the model of the bigger store.
Correct.
Ah, because I was going to say, why in the world would you do one up,
Well,
double down, so to speak, on a bigger store if the first 5 weren't really?
He wanted a small store. And so we looked for over a year. And I'm scared to death to give him a bad location because I don't want anything to happen to the guy. I like him and his wife very, very much. They're still friends of mine. And couldn't find him a location. And he kept telling me to go to West 7th Street in Fort Worth. And I'm looking at it, and it's a bunch of warehouses. And, now, do you know about West 7th?
I do.
Huge development, bars, restaurants everywhere, condos, apartments, townhomes, a movie theater, everything.
My father-in-law used to work in that Montgomery Wards. That is now, it's a multi-story warehouse. It's now lofts and
that's where our store is. We're in the Montgomery Plaza building.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So as they developed that, so we put a letter of intent in for a small lease space to do one of the wing stores, right? So we're going to be selling chicken wings. So the landlord calls and politely says, we don't want your kind of people in the building. And I said, well, what are my kind of people? And he said, I don't need the Bubbas and pickup trucks that are eating chicken wings after playing softball. I said, well, that's not very nice. And he said, well, I'm selling the units above you for $500,000 to $3 million, and that's not the clientele we're looking for.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, you thought it was the small store. I said, we've got a different concept. You probably haven't seen or heard about it. And he said, send me a menu.
You just made this up while you're on the phone?
I made it up.
Of course you did. All right, we're going to take our last break, and when we come back, we'll figure out where that leads. Okay, so you're on a phone call and with a leasing agent for a developer of a property, and you just make up on the spot that you have a new concept?
Correct.
Because you just thought a bigger store of the same thing was going to somehow entice him more so
yeah,
than
the investor
smaller one?
really wanted this site, and I didn't want to lose it for him. So I called up our design firm and said, hey, quick, I need you to go online, find a bunch of hamburgers and chicken sandwiches and salads and copy and paste and put my logo at the top of the page and send it back to me. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, don't worry about it. Just get me a menu together as quick as you can. And he said, okay. So he sent it to me. I faxed it over to the developer, and he said, this is exactly the kind of restaurant I've been looking for. I said, great. So I called the investor and said, hey, good news. Found a location. More news. The landlord really, really wants us. Bad news is I don't know what the concept is. I don't know how to run it. I've never run a full-service restaurant all by myself, and it's probably going to cost you $1 million, not $250,000. And he said, let's go. Let's do it.
Oh, my goodness. Really?
Yeah.
And what was his background in?
No, he's a doctor.
Oh, well, okay.
Wife was an attorney. He's a doctor.
I will reserve comment.
Yeah. But, it worked out. We opened up, and it was doing really nice. And from day one, it just worked.
And what year was that?
That would have been 2008.
Oh, again, perfect timing. Another downturn in the economy.
Correct.
But that didn't.
No, I seem to follow that pattern. If I open up a store on the highway, they blow the highway up the next week and do 3 years of construction. If I open a store, the recession hit. I don't know, but it's people like having beer and burgers.
Yeah.
At good times, bad times.
Some things don't.
No, they get fired. They go out and get a beer. They get hired. They go get a beer. They get a divorce. They go drink. They get married. They go get. They want a hamburger. They want to watch some sports. They want to get away. They just want to sit outside on a patio. You go out to eat, to get away, and just forget about stuff. And that's what we try and provide, is just an awesome experience in doing that.
So the themes I hear you've mentioned a few times is beer, wings, catfish, a lot of these kinds of food, and patios. So describe this for me if you can. What is sort of your ideal customer, or the kind of most common customer? Is there one?
No, there's not. It's like we've got families that eat with us. We've got retired people that are in there eating with us. The late night crowd, most of the stores are open until 2 a.m. So the late night crowd's obviously a younger crowd. So you've got that crowd from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Dinner crowd, I would say, is normal, just families and people coming in. Happy hour, the business people getting off work. And lunch is lunch, just anybody. So it's like we don't have an avatar client. It's everybody.
Okay. So when you're open till 2 a.m., does I would assume the makeup of the people changes
Drastically.
So does it really become more of a bar in the evening, or are they still eating?
A lot of them still eat. We do a late night menu for $5, where that way they can still sit there and eat and munch, and they're not stopping by Whataburger on the way home, and they stay with us. And but yeah, it's more of a drinking crowd. I mean, at that time of night.
So it's drinking and talking, or do you have like games or what?
Most people are hanging out. Most of the games are over, except for a few West Coast games. But most of the people just want to listen to the music and sit outside and sit by the fire pits and just enjoy it and hang out.
So, given everything you've already told me, I hesitate to even ask this question. But what's the one big mistake that you made that you can think of that really didn't work?
I tried a Mexican food concept. The Bedford location of the Boomer Jacks had a competing place next door, and they went out of business, and I didn't want anybody else coming in. So I thought, well, this will be an offensive move. Go over there and push, but it's also defensive. Just make sure someone else didn't come in. I'd heard there was another local competitor of mine that was going to move in. So I took it, and I thought, well, people eat burgers, they eat pizza, and they eat Mexican food all the time. I don't ever see a Mexican food place go out of business. So
right.
No due diligence into this, and we opened up like the nicest Mexican food restaurant we could. It was amazing. The foods were off the hook. The design, the interior was incredible, and it did miserable. It did not fit Bedford, Texas. For whatever reason, it just didn't work.
Too expensive, or just people
Probably
didn't feel comfortable in the
I
decor?
think it was too uppity. Yeah, it was just the price points were high. Looking back, it would do good probably somewhere in Frisco or Uptown. And like I said, it was done really, really well. It just didn't work. And so I did not have a CFO at the time. And we were losing probably $40,000 a month. And I did not want to see it. So I let one other company pay the rent, and I'd have another company cover payroll. And then my P&L looked better. I wouldn't lose money anymore. And I was like, yeah, we got to figure it out. And one day I was sitting in my office in December, and I went and added all the intercompany loans up, and it was $700,000 that we lost. And I went over and locked the door, and we were done and didn't know what to do with it. So I had a little bit of money and put it together, and we threw a bunch of wooden crates and beer cans glued on the wall and neon lights, and we built a stage, and we turned it into Bedford Ice House, and it does $3.5 million a year now.
Now, Ice House sounds like basically it's a
live
club,
entertainment,
drinking.
Yep, it's just live music, 7 nights a week. A huge patio.
Is it country music or what?
Everything, all genres.
Really?
Yeah, we have a great time over there. So yeah, worst case, Cisco Jacks lost probably close to $1 million, and I'm going to get it back. I was not going to lose, and so I turned it into Bedford Ice House, and it's going to be a slow climb. It'll take 7 years probably, but I'll be even. The bank will be paid, all the company will be paid back, and
how big a space is that?
8,000 square feet.
Oh, that's pretty good size.
Yeah, with probably 4,000 square feet of patio, so 12,000 feet total.
So now how does that work? It's a live music venue, but half the space is outside.
Correct.
So
we have garage doors on the front. We roll them
so
up.
Everything's opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay.
Open the building up. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so patios, I always wonder about patios. You can't possibly get the same volume of revenue on a patio as you can inside just because of the weather, right?
Correct.
So is there any kind of rule of thumb as to what percentage that is?
No. My CFO probably has a number. I don't. I just build these things and operate
What was
them.
I thinking? We should have brought the CFO to this interview.
Bruce should be here with us.
Bruce actually is the one that set it up. Thank you,
Yeah.
Bruce. I didn't realize he was the CFO.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Best hire I ever made. He's great. Been a great asset to the company. And a friend of mine encouraged it strongly over 2 years and kept telling him I didn't need one. And, you listen to your mentors. You should listen to your mentors. You shouldn't wait.
So you already had a controller you had talked about that helped control costs and such. So now you've brought in a CFO. What have you seen the CFO doing that's been so great that wasn't being done before?
He has streamlined a lot of the operations that we do. He has accountability meetings with everyone. I don't like meetings. I just like working. And I'm seeing the importance of it now. He sits down, everybody's held accountable to their numbers. If you're off, you need a reason why you're off and what you're planning to get you back on. He literally he has paid for himself 2 or 3 times over. And that's exactly what the friend of mine that had told me to hire one told me. He said a good CFO is going to pay for themselves. It's the worst check you'll ever write. They don't produce revenue.
Right.
You're looking at a guy that's sitting behind a desk that doesn't produce. You're used to watching people produce. They don't produce, directly, revenue. But he's like, a good one will pay for itself over and over and over, and he's done that.
That's such a great lesson because there's so many ways to increase the bottom line. And it's not just revenue necessarily.
Correct.
It's also managing debt, getting rid of debt, managing expenses. I mean, there's so many other things, getting the right kind of debt.
We restructured everything. We streamlined some things. We paid some things off. We've adjusted cash flows to be diverted in different ways. We're growing with a game plan right now to be able to grow internally in a few years, hopefully without the assistance of the banks. And that would be awesome.
Now you have 14 locations now.
Correct.
And are they all DFW based?
Correct.
So where do you see this going next?
We've got a deal. We have 3 deals working right now. One of them's already in permitting stage in a city, and that'll be in Addison.
Okay.
And then we've got 2 more deals working, and we're getting more deals brought to us now.
Yeah.
And so we're getting excited about it. We'll look at growing to Houston, maybe Waco or West Texas, and doing 1 or 2 stores a year. If we can get up to 3 stores a year, it'll be good. And his job will be to keep us not being over leveraged.
No more credit cards.
Yeah, no more credit cards. And to this day, I carry cash. And if I don't have it in my pocket, I'm not buying it.
Nobody allowed. I've taught these Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University. I just cringe as you're talking about these credit cards.
Dave would have a heart attack if he.
Absolutely, you'd be the poster child
Yes.
for what not to do.
Correct. Exactly.
That is so funny and so scary too. So in these additional locations you're talking about, how are you finding the new location opportunities? Is it really that people are bringing you, like brokers, real estate
We've
brokers?
got a good
are bringing it to
broker,
you, or-
and he's really hitting the streets hard now because he knows we're doing 2 or 3 stores a year.
Okay.
I've got some other brokers that we know that are bringing. Our CFO is well connected in the real estate end.
Okay.
He even has a real estate license, so we
Oh.
can do our own deals if we need to.
Okay.
I do the general construction and build the restaurants.
You do.
I do.
Why?
I like it.
Okay, you like it, but seriously though, is that really the best use of your time?
That's what he asked me. But yeah, I save more money than I'm faster.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I got to call BS on that.
Yeah.
You're faster, but come on, if you have somebody else that's doing this, that's their job, that's their 100% focus, your focus ought to be on the strategic direction of the company, not whether or not this wrench is turned the right way.
It works. I go out there, I do that, and then I drive around all day on the phone, and
So
I
it's a
check on the
hobby.
job in the morning, check on it at night. Got a good superintendent. I don't know how long we'll be able to do this. I think the end of my road's coming up on the construction.
As soon as you do something outside out of town, you can't do that.
I know.
You shouldn't do it now, I don't think.
No, probably, but
So you're doing it because you just like it. It's a hobby. You
Yeah.
feel good about it, feel comfortable with
I
it.
do. Creating stuff, you're creating jobs, you're building something, it changes every day.
I get it, but you can do that without turning a wrench, without telling somebody else how to turn that wrench.
Yeah, the Addison store, we've already subbed out to a general contractor.
Okay.
And then the next one's a ground up, so I probably won't do it. But interior remodels, I'm probably going to stick to. Those are going to be. We've made a deal with the CFO that I can do the remodels
Sounds like his job is keeping you in line.
a lot. I got a great operations guy that runs the operations for me.
Excellent.
That's why I can do this. I've got 2 area directors that are killer, been with me for 7 and 8 years, and operations guy runs those 2 guys. and it's a good team. It's a solid team.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're all.
Well, you're obviously killing it. So, unfortunately, we have to end the conversation there. For our listeners, please go to boomerjacks.com and bedfordicehouse.com and go eat there. I honestly have not been to one yet, so I'm anxious to do so. My son has been there. He liked it. And you can go to nextlevelshow.com to learn more about the show and look us up on podcast and YouTube at The Next Level Show. Thanks for being with us today, Brent.
Thank you.